This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, we now bring you a discussion on PM GATI SHAKTI National Master Plan. The participants are Sharat Kohli, Economic Analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent.
Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the PM GATI SHAKTI plan, which he said will provide GATI SHAKTI to 21st century India with multimodal connectivity and next-generation infrastructure. Sharatji, can you tell us about the significance of this program and how it will accelerate the process of development in our country?
Well, Sonu, to my mind, this is one of the finest steps that government could have ever taken. As an economist, I can very safely conclude that from the times immemorial, every time there is a government project, we hear about files, moving from one ministry to the other, one ministry not answering, the other ministry reminding. And this has, as the Prime Minister said, it leads to delay in project. It leads to deprivation for the people for whom the project was meant for. It involves escalation of the cost because more the time taken, more the costs involved. And the project is launched with a certain objective in mind, so it defeats the objective. So I think a very, very significant move from the country's perspective. This was the need of the hour. We have seen in the past, in the last 75 years of India's independence, we have seen ministries, one going north, one going south, one going east, one going west. And not that with a foul intention, but just that because there was no clear directive which governed all of them in a synchronized manner, in a single direction. So this is a very, very welcome step. I would rate this as one of the best reforms in terms of maximum governance. This also meets the Prime Minister's objective of minimum government and maximum governance. I think bringing together 16 ministries on a digital platform, and the name itself is self-explanatory. It says Gati, it will provide speed, and it will provide Shakti, which is it will provide the strength to the whole project, strength to deliver, strength to make the benefit reach the people, strength to make the country progress.
Sharatji, as you very rightly pointed out, that a holistic outlook has been taken in this plan to ensure coordination between different departments engaged directly or indirectly in infrastructure creation. Instead of planning and designing separately in silos, the projects will be executed in tandem with a common vision. Will this uplift the effectiveness and efficiency of project execution to a much higher level and attract investment to the country in a big way?
Well, without a doubt, Sonu, because if I'm an investor placed in another country, we've been talking of investments coming from China, we've been talking of dethroning China, the decoupling policy as it is being called worldwide. So in order to create an environment where the foreign investor is freely able to consider India as a top investment destination, and a sign of a developed economy is a very, very healthy infrastructure. I think infrastructure is something which is the first characteristic of a developed economy. So if India has to move from developing economy to a developed economy and the $5 trillion goal which the Prime Minister has set for the country, I think development of infrastructure is the first requirement without a doubt. Now the National Infrastructure Pipeline, 100 lakh crore, let me make it easier for our listeners, $1.5 trillion, if we put it in simpler terms, is the total layout for the whole project. The total time span was set as 2019 Independence Day to 2025. I think that was the goal set. So if in 6 years' time, if we want these 100 lakh crores to create bridges, to create roads, to create world-class airports, world-class agriculture facilities, if we have to reach that goal, a coordinated effort is a must. Because if it is not coordinated, and I'll take a simple example, like somebody was asking me today that how does this 16 ministries coming together on Gati Shakti platform benefit the people, the Aam Aadmi, should I say. Take an example, a highway has to be constructed, which has to go partly through agricultural land. It has to cross a railway bridge. It has to cross an irrigation facility. It has to cross, let's say, some other industry. Now, what used to happen till now? The file goes to the agricultural ministry because there is acquisition of land required. The file goes to railway ministry. The file goes to the road ministry. The file goes to some other Ministry of Industry as well, because there is some industry which is probably touching the road or whatever. Now, what happens is each ministry have got their own priorities. They've got their own objectives. But if they come together on a single platform, if their entire work is brought together under Gati Shakti, 16 ministries working together, I think it will resolve the problems which come in interministerial coordination, if I put it in those terms. I think removal of those bottlenecks, will suddenly take, or you'll see the difference the moment this Gati Shakti comes into operation. I'm told it's going to be coming on a digital platform. Obviously, they'll be connected to digital platform where each ministry would have to provide its inputs, what is being done, how this problem is being resolved, and under a monitoring system. I think it's a wonderful initiative. And I think today, after this program Spotlight, I think people should be able to understand better how is this going to affect their everyday life.
So Sharadji, you have outlined very beautifully how it is a crucial step in the government's constant endeavor to build a next generation infrastructure which improves not only ease of doing business but also ease of living. Now, Mr. Modi today said Gati Shakti Master Plan will provide an analytical and decision-making tool to the investors and all stakeholders involved in policy making of the country. Can you elaborate on this? How will this be helpful in making more effective policies for the country?
Absolutely, Sonu. If we divide segments of the whole infrastructure projects, I could broadly see three categories. One is purely government-run projects. Second is the ones run with public-private participation. We call it as PPP. And the third segment is where there are so many international companies, corporations, and governments who want to participate. We've seen highways being built by Japanese government. We've seen dams being contributed by Japanese government and some of the European countries. So it is very normal. So if I am an investor, I would like to see that the money I am going to park in this country, how soon will that money convert into action? How soon will the fruits of that labor be delivered? I think I would be looking at that. And the next day, if I find my file of the project is stuck in some ministry, and then, okay, it's done after a month or two, then it moves to another ministry. There it takes another 2 months. See, as an investor, if you go into my mindset, I would probably be disheartened that as an investor, I have invested so much money, I have committed so much money, but look, the files are not moving. I think that is what Prime Minister meant, because an investor in a fast-moving environment would be very happy to park the money very, very confidently because he knows that this is going to move very quickly. Therefore, I think that will encourage more and more investors to be coming into the country, Sonu.
Sharadji, as you said, Gati Shakti plan will be technologically leveraged and it will be mainly a digital platform. Do you think it will work as a ready reckoner for the public and more importantly for the business community, providing them crucial information regarding upcoming connectivity projects, other business hubs coming up, economic zones coming up, and this will enable investors to plan their businesses at suitable locations, leading to enhanced synergies?
I think, Sonu, this may not be in public domain because after all, this is about coordination of 16 ministries. So there is a certain part of it which is going to be confidential because there are certain decisions that government makes at the top level which may not be open to public. But yes, to answer your question very precisely, if I'm a participant in that initiative, then a certain access would be given to me to enable me to monitor the progress of the project. I believe that certain sub-portals may be created because we are yet to see the finer details as to how open this platform would be. We need to wait and see as to what part of Gati Shakti, Sonu, will be open to general public and what part of Gati Shakti will be allowed as an access to the investors and participants. I have a feeling that sub-portals would be created in Gati Shakti. I think a project-driven access will definitely be provided to see as to how your file is moving, which ministry is helping out to resolve the problem being faced by the project, and how the ministries are coordinating between themselves. So these things may be available on the platform. As they say, the devil lies in details. So we need to see how it finally culminates into action. But the intent is very clear. So I think it is going to be for the benefit of all the stakeholders. So the investors need not worry, even if they have limited access to Gati Shakti progress.
And Sharadji, you talked about costs coming down. Now, by cutting down logistics costs and improving supply chains, do you think this will make our products more competitive and help our exports also, help our ongoing reforms like Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan?
Absolutely, Sonu. If there is a specialized GI tag-driven product, suppose there is something which is a specialty in a particular area, let's say in Kerala or in Andhra or far-fetched area of Kanyakumari, the rest of the country does not have access to that. There is very little transportation which is available. So I think the road network, the infrastructure, and if you've seen the Gati Shakti details, you would notice that more focus is on logistics. Because I would say major part of infrastructure relates to logistics. Logistics is, after all, a big reflection of the infrastructure and vice versa for that matter. So therefore, yes, I think it will lead to a balanced growth because you will see the whole country coming into the mainstream. Now, even there is a Ministry for Tribal Affairs. Today, you can go to a tribal store. There are tribal stores all over the place. Suddenly, you find that the tribes have moved into the mainstream. I think that is the objective that this is going to give. The products which are being manufactured in remote areas, I think they are going to get integrated. This reminds me of GSP. One country, one infrastructure, one logistic support where no product of the country is inaccessible. And I think that is what is going to promote export and the vocal for local. That Nara, will come into the picture. I think focus on infrastructure, this whole national infrastructure pipeline could be a slap in the face of the people who criticize the country, saying that country does not have enough infrastructure. And I think with the investors looking at plus one policy, they're looking at India. This is just the right time, I would say, when the country should be taking this step for that matter.
Sharadji, the Prime Minister emphasized today on a forward-looking approach with progress on all fronts. You feel this initiative, along with all the other path-breaking reforms, especially in the last 1.5 years, which have been taken by the government, changing this COVID crisis into an opportunity, will stoke the animal spirits of the country and the industry and help private investment pick up pace in a big way?
Without a doubt, Sonu, because a 360-degree approach is required whenever you want to develop a country. You cannot have development in isolation of certain sectors. I think a synchronized, coordinated, and a holistic approach is required. And that is what the government has been doing over the last year and a half or more, I would say now. Because it started with Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, where more than 30 lakh crore was committed for various liquidity and other related schemes. That also included agricultural infrastructure. It included helping the MSMEs come up. So I think the country is so diverse. And I think within our country, you can almost say there are many countries integrated into one single country. So unless a holistic approach is taken, a complete reform-based approach, that is, you have to change the whole system in the country. If you see the resources we have, if you see the kind of talent we have, we should have been the richest economy at this point of the world. But what stopped us? I think infrastructure was one of the main obstructions in our becoming the richest economy or the biggest economy in the world. I think that is where Prime Minister has hit where we were lacking the most. You very rightly said a 360-degree approach to develop all ends of the society because each segment of economy is knitted with the other segment. Obviously, everything cannot be done together. You can't suddenly, launch everything together. We have fiscal constraints. We have resource constraints. We have just gone through the biggest pandemic in the history. Each country in the world was facing a resource crunch and India was no exception. Despite that, if we have been able to launch this national infrastructure pipeline and then the GATI Shakti, I think the government deserves all the appreciation on record.
Sharadji, will you round up the top 3 benefits which will ensue from the PM GATI Shakti plan which has been launched today by the Prime Minister?
Well, that's very easy. I could list out 30, but you asked me 3, so I'll restrain myself to 3. First is it will result in saving of the cost. It will preserve the precious resources, monetary resources of this country, I think, which is very important at this point of time. Number 2 is the time. India needs to develop very, very quickly. We do not have much time. We have investors in China who are already looking at alternates as to where to set up. So we have to be quick. So first is the cost. Second is the time. And third, and most important is, it will knit the country into a single unit. It will provide the objective of maximum governance. I think those are the 3 plus points. So the cost, time, and maximum governance. I think those are the 3 prime benefits which we're going to reap out of this, although I can go on listing, for the next half an hour.
Thank you so much, Sharadji, for this insightful discussion on the PM GATI Shakti plan launched today.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on PM GATI Shakti National Master Plan. The participants were Sharat Kohli, Economic Analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.